Hi, this is Mike.G, and we are continuing the Psychopath videos. And what we're going to do now is I got a couple of notes, and I figured I'd go over some other interesting characteristics in dealing with the psychopath. For starters, classical psychology will not work in psychopathy. It won't work at all. And one of the reasons it won't work is because the whole thing about asking them questions just gives them the opportunity to lie and gives you the opportunity to believe it. So that's not going to work. Every time you ask them a question, you're helping them stay away from their body. So how do you deal with a person like this? The first thing you need to know is when you're dealing with them, again, I'm saying it again, they're always perpetually lying. They might even say a truthful statement, but coming from them, it's still a lie. It doesn't matter. You cannot get caught up in an argument with them, in a I'm right, you're wrong type situation, because you're just feeding the monster. So I'm going to give you two other things that you could do with them. Or three. I'll give you three. One thing you can do is, if you're the enabler to the psychopath, this is going to be almost the worst thing in the world for you to do, because you're not going to be able to confront them. You're probably not even going to watch this video. You're just not. Because you don't have the power to confront them. Because you're suppressing. So for you to engage with them, you're either going to blow up or just say yes when you mean no. So the psychopath energy, remember, major head structure and disconnected from the torso. One of the things you could do to them is you can exhaust them. So when dealing with them, you exhaust every possibility that they can use to feed off you, and it pushes them in a position where they got to feed off themselves. And one way they get exhausted is by not believing them. You just don't believe them. And for them, that they're going to expound more energy to try and get you to believe them. Because every time that they entice you with a lie and you do not follow through in believing that, it actually depletes their energy. And here's how this works. You see, our body does not get energy from the food that just enters our mouth. Our body gets the energy from the blood supply feeding from the torso into our head. That's how the head gets fed. It gets fed through the blood. It doesn't have the ability to sustain itself by itself. But if they're not connecting to their own body, then they don't have much of a container of energy, supplies. And if you're next to them and you're not feeding them, then they're not able to feed off your energy. They're actually losing energy. And what you need to do is not sever, you need to bring the head back down. When you don't ask them questions, it brings the head back down. When you don't believe them, it brings the head back down. If you get them to use their hands, it brings the head back down. That doesn't mean the head's going to stay down, because this massive head structure didn't just happen overnight. Somebody's been feeding this monster for a long time and brought this to this point. I mean, look at the President of the United States. He's got the whole country to live on right now. In fact, if you really think about it, what was the first... Sean Spicer gets in front of the whole country, and what's the first thing he talks about? Is that there was a bigger crowd on the inauguration day than the reality that was there, or that Trump had a bigger turnout than Obama. This totally devastated Trump, and he even went as far as making a picture with it looking like it's busy, and he even went back to the Parks Department to find proof, because he has to substantiate his preeminence. He's feeding off everybody in the country right now. So it's incredible. And all the enablers that put him in power, they will co-sign his lie. Co-sign his lie. When you deal with the psychopath, you do not co-sign their lie. When they put you in a position that you have to sacrifice the truth, that's when you have to go after the psychopath. You cannot sacrifice the truth, because you see, for them to be disconnected like this, they sacrificed their body and they sacrificed the truth. The truth of the spirit is located inside the torso. So when the enabler comes, what's the first thing that they do with the enabler? They force the enabler to lie. They really do. And they feed off of that. They force the enabler, they provoke the enabler, and they feed off that energy. You got to cut this energy off. When you cut this energy off and you do not ask them questions where they have the potential to lie, the head will come down. Now, another thing you can do, and this is kind of tricky because, I don't know what, if you just do this off the bat, it might backfire on you. But when the psychopath is in a belligerent attitude or does something in an error, you can't give them the same punishment that you would give a normal person. You have to consider nothing that they do is normal. So if they make an infraction, like I was dealing with 11, 12-year-olds, when they make an infraction, and I know that they're in their psychopathy, you have to almost multiply the factor of punishment by 10. So what you would normally have as a conversation, you have to make it like a very poignant and answer without emotion. That's the thing. You have to deal with them with power and clinical. You cannot wrap emotion into your statement, because if you wrap the emotion into it, you're feeding them. No emotion, they don't get fed. If you just give a sharp answer, that again brings them down. And the answer must be greater proportionally than you would give a normal person. Because they just need that, because they could digest a certain amount of confrontation in their head. But when the confrontation is greater than their head is capable of taking, then they'll be forced to go into the torso. So in the case of, let's say, a 15-year-old or a 12-year-old, they can handle you. But if you kind of almost go ballistic without emotion, they cannot handle that. And they will be forced to go into the torso. And there's going to be tears, and they need to have those tears. That's right. They need to feel. This is the place they need to be, in the body. You need to crack this gigantic head structure. You got to bring this head back down. And the more you start understanding how they operate, you'll find your own balance on how to deal with them. But you can be rest assured that they will always try and mimic humanity. They're not in reality. They have no emotions. They have to mimic emotions. Mimic them. They're not real. And if you digest their fake emotions, you've just now been played. They can shed tears. They'll cry you a river. but it doesn't matter. It's not real. I had an older gentleman, I'm not going to say exactly who, but he was crying at the loss of his wife 3 years later. And he just started crying about it and talking about it. But there was no emotion from him. So my observation was he did not come out from a place of emotion. He came from well, this is the appropriate thing for me to do right now is cry. I looked at him straight in the face. I'm like, why are you crying? Why are you crying? Well, didn't give any feeding. He stopped. As if it was a switch. As if it was a switch going off that said, I don't need to cry anymore. They're actors. Acting is a very big psychopathy thing. You're pretending you're somebody else. You're imagining that you're someone else and you're doing fake emotions. Look at the actors. All the actors are in the psychopathy, and who's watching them? All the enablers. So even though I'm saying a lot of things about the psychopathy, they do have some really good characteristics as well. I'll cover them. Not yet. We're not ready to cover the good stuff yet. But I can tell you, they are interesting. They are charming. Maybe they're fun to be around. But they are always sizing you up so that you would have some sort of fall. Some sort of fall. Classical psychology, again, will not work. All you're doing is you're teaching them how to become better. Now, the funny thing is half your psychologists and psychiatrists are actually in psychopathy dealing with their patients. They're not really helping anybody, because when they see a patient, they're looking at dollar signs. That's all they're looking at. I know it sounds like they want to help you, but if they really want to help you, then they should give precise ability to help and goodbye. Not this ongoing 15 years worth of we need to work with you for 10, 15 years. Doesn't work like that. And I'm going to leave it at there right now, and I'll make you another video. And I hope you enjoyed this. God bless.